master the business of speaking with your hosts, Taylor and Austin. You're listening to Technically Speaking.
Welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. We're your hosts, Taylor and Austin, and today we've brought in event producing expert Shay Wheat. Shay specializes in helping people put in-person and virtual events from 200 to 4,000 plus attendees. She's collaborated with celebrities such as Dr. Oz, Lisa Nichols, Josh Turner, and many more. Shay helps Speak to Sell clients be extremely profitable with their events, and her company, Grace and Ease, has helped their clients make over $25 million in revenue, gain over 3,500 new clients, and have helped change the lives of tens of thousands of attendees. Their team handles all the planning, speaker and sponsor support, as well as the production of the entire event. Leads to say, Shay is a true expert in her craft, and this week she's sharing with us what it takes to put on your own events and how to know if you're ready for one. So without further ado, let's get into it. As always, stick around until the end for some awesome resources, and we hope you enjoy this one. We made it. We are live. Austin, you good over there? What's up?
I'm good. Just adjusting the headphones and stuff.
Adjusting? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Recordings, like there's a million moving parts. There's like lights and cameras and audio.
Action.
And I mean, yeah. Yes. Thank you. But anyways.
Really excited for today's episode. Shay, welcome to Technically Speaking. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm super stoked to be here with you both.
Oh, man. Love that excitement. If I could just take 10% of that. That'd be great. I have to drink like 11 cups of coffee to get to that level. So.
Yeah, right. Like, see this relative to my face?
You. How about that?
Unhealthy.
This is going to be such a cool episode. I know our listeners are always loving the sort of behind the scenes look. And because so many of our listeners are like primarily professional speakers, right? They work with people like you all the time, but I don't think understand you really at either a logistical level or an emotional level. So we're really happy to have you and your perspective here today to share both of those things with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting world that we live in for sure. And hopefully I can give you a little bit of insight into what my world looks like. And then in return, what you should not know about my world.
There you go.
You need to stay in your genius zone, right?
Yeah.
Like not coming into my space.
Heck yeah.
Half of our audience just like breathed the sigh of relief having heard you say that. So
yeah, that's right. Just like, oh, listen today. That's right. Yeah. So we like to do some research, Shay, ahead of our shows, just to kind of get a lay of the land and see if there's anything fun and exciting. And one of the things that stood out is like your brand, Grace and Ease. Mm-hmm. So where did that come from? How'd you land on that? What does it mean? And, why?
Yeah. So, back in the day when I'm trying to figure everything out, you try and think about like, what is the business and who is it and what is it becoming? And I just started with like Shay Wheat International because I wanted to be an international business. And that was as creative as I got, right? I was like, just start, right? Just start and it'll show up. And so just a little background on me. I'm also a Reiki master. Which is, an energetic healer. And with that, I would say part of my special sauce or, that sets me apart is really grounding. So I can ground the client, I can ground the energy in the room, I can ground anything that's popping up. So whether or not I'm working with somebody that is, working with B2Bs and brick and mortar and LinkedIn, or working with somebody that is doing high emotional support, energetic, woo-woo things. I can do the gamut and make it feel like it's a container that's nice and safe that people can come into. And so that's kind of how Grace and Ease came about is we know events can be crazy. They can be chaotic, but we really look at doing it with as much grace and ease as possible.
Man, yeah, that's benefits everybody too. Obviously, the person who's on the stage can communicate what they need to communicate in an environment that allows them to do so, and the audience can receive it the way that they expect to, right? Without the chaos in the background. So I feel that here, and I understand that here. So good combo.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind
Yeah,
of like it.
totally.
Nice. So, like, how did you find yourself in the world of event production? I mean, did you like, were you 5 and said, I want to put on events, or did you kind of stumble into it?
Yeah, I think I kind of stumbled into it. So I was a speaker. I was a Reiki master. I was in network marketing. I was finding myself, right? So I was doing a speaking gig at the beginning of the year. It was the new year, new you, right? And so I'm like, perfect. I'm going to talk about appreciation marketing and loving on people and sending out to give, all of this. So, being a multi speaker event, multiple speakers. So, we kind of like switch off the microphones. And so, I was joking with the guy ahead of me. I'm like, hey, dude, don't go spitting on my mic. He's like, you're funny. Who the heck are you? And come to find out, he was like the head of education for Dr. Oz's nonprofit.
Oh
I was
wow.
like, oh, that's cool. I actually met his sister Saval at Maria Shriver's women's conference when she was the first lady of California, because I live in California. And he's like, you're kidding. She's best friends with our CEO, and we're doing a women's conference. You should help us. I was like,
Wow, that's serendipitous.
okay.
Sure, you can't say no to that offer.
Right? And so that's how I became an associate producer. My very first event, I was in charge of over 100 volunteers and over 70 speakers.
Your first event?
My
Wow.
first event. Yeah,
Thrown into the flames.
exactly.
Seriously.
Yeah. Learning the ropes,
Wow.
right? Associate producer, not full on. But yeah, it was like, okay, this is really kind of cool. I love events. I love everything about events. I've always gone to events. Why not go and get paid to be at events? Let's check it out some more.
Yeah, man, what a good combo. Holy cow. It's kind of interesting to me too, because like you started on one side of the fence, if you will. And and maybe this isn't a proper assumption on my part, but like when I think about putting on an event, I just think like logistics, like the number of moving parts required to tie all of those
Yeah.
things together. But
Mhm.
that headspace is very different from the headspace I tend to encounter when we're talking to the creative visionary types that speakers tend to be. So you're
Yeah.
like blending two personalities together, it seems
Mhm.
like, to bridge that gap, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I understand that, I work with a lot of visionaries, a lot of creatives, a lot of speakers, coaches, experts, thought leaders, right? And they have to be in that space because you're attracting your tribe, you're attracting your community and your audience, you're downloading things, you have the goods. And you need to stay in that space. You should not be thinking about logistics and is lunch showing up and is the next speaker ready and do they have the offer ready to drop on the tables or are they going to play that video on time or whatever. It's a totally different, like you said, headspace, and I'm able to kind of bridge that gap and speak both languages to tell the team what they're supposed to do, as well as support you as the visionary of what you need to know so you can do what you do best, show up, shine on stage.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
How
Well, I can
valuable.
imagine that being, yeah, like I was gonna say, so valuable, especially like I know so many of our clients and our listeners, like not only do they love speaking, but naturally because you're speaking at other events, like the thought often pops in your head, like, man, I'd love to put on my own event. And,
Mhm.
event size ranges. Some want to do hundreds of people, some want to do retreats or masterminds or something. But it's something like I think many people desire to have as a part of their business. And then all of a sudden they find themselves putting a date on the calendar. And then now they're kind of like, oh man, this is how putting on an event. Now we got to actually do the thing. Like the
Mhm.
dreaming was great, but now they actually got to put it together, which I can imagine is pretty intimidating once you get into the weeds if you haven't done that before.
There's a lot of moving parts. I mean, when we're doing some of our events and we're planning things leading into it, we're putting in a good 100 some odd hours pre event just in the planning.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if we're hosting one of our like 3-day sales and enrollment events, then you're looking at another 12 to 15-hour days, right? And it's not just the 3 days, it's at least the day before. If you're in person, you're setting up, or if you're virtual, you're doing your tech check. You're, just collaborating and making sure all the stuff comes together so that you can show up and shine.
Yeah. My engineer brain is just like, how in the hell do you organize yourselves to achieve that? Which is just amazing to me. But
I love my
I have a
spreadsheet.
question. Ooh, man, I love spreadsheets too. What the heck would we do without our spreadsheets? I want to talk to you about your spreadsheets, but I also want to contextualize this a little bit because there's a million. I mean, okay, that's an exaggeration. I think before the show, you were telling us you identified like 17 different types of events out there.
Right.
So to understand your perspective a little bit better, can you help us understand like the types of events you're typically involving yourself in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So 17 plus. I think there's probably more than 17, but I've just looked at about 17 of them. So it can be a 90-minute workshop. It can be a summit. It can be a retreat, a mastermind, a 1-day sales and enrollment event, a 3-day sales and enrollment event. There's seminars, podcasts. So this is an event right now, right? You had to do your tech check. You had to find your speakers. You had to look through the topic. This is an event. You've got meetups, Facebook Lives, and Instagram Lives. People may not think that those are events, but they are. Same thing goes for your clubhouse rooms, conferences. Most people know about those, challenges, hackathons, conventions, trade shows. That's just a sampling of the different types of events that you can be utilizing in your business. However, you should not be doing some of those events depending on the phase of business that you're in. So that's the distinction, is to take a look at only using the events based on where you're at in business and what your intention is with that event.
Fascinating.
I have questions around those phases.
Okay.
Let's go before the phases. When is somebody, like if somebody's listening to this and from your perspective, they are just not ready to even consider events, period. Like what is that threshold?
Yeah. So if you want to do events because you love events, right? But your business has to be able to support the event because they're not cheap, right? I've got clients that have budgets that are 75K, 150K for one event, right? And that's, it's a good, decent size budget. But they're also looking to make $2 million on the back end, right? So it fits. But if you're somebody starting out and you're like, how do I fit this into my scope of work for the life of my business? You need to first bring in the income. You need to make sure that you actually have something that is valid, that is like validates your offer, that you have people that are actually buying it. You've got proof of concept, and you can get 8 to 10 full paying clients. So once you do that, then you get them crazy awesome results and you rinse and repeat, right? Your main objective in phase 1 is the validation phase, is to get people and get them crazy awesome results. That's it. From there, then you move into phase 2, which is like your visibility phase. But you want to make sure that what you have is actually what the audience that you're speaking to wants. That's the most important thing.
Right.
No
There's
events in phase 1. No events. You are just finding the people, loving on your people, getting crazy awesome results. That's it.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's going to make finding the people for your event a little easier.
Right. Yes.
A lot of
It all
folks.
layers on itself.
Yeah, right. And I mean, honestly, like, I think sometimes there's like a build it and they will come kind of mentality. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, and so like you kind of like got to know who you need to like target to be able to put in the event in the first place and how you can provide value before even putting on an event, let's say. So super helpful. The threshold, just having a black and white line of knowing when, okay, now is the time to consider an event, is pretty helpful. So there's been a thought that's been kind of like in the back of my mind, and I think like this is kind of like the behind the scenes kind of question that I kind of want to like pull out of you. I think many of our clients, like let's say our clients, our listeners, so many are just used to kind of being on stage. They're a part of an event that's already kind of being produced. They get to show up, get on stage and speak. They're also considering their own events. But I think few really kind of like understand, like you mentioned, you kind of alluded to this with 100 hours of pre-planning or of planning, I guess, before the event. pre-event that goes into this, but like, what are some of the things that like are involved in planning an event? Because I think sometimes people can anticipate like, oh, it's just a stage and pretty lighting. So obviously it's more than that. So like,
Yes.
obviously this is a loaded question, but unpack for us, like, what are just some of the things that you go through when, producing an event?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to grab one of my call
Ooh,
schedules here.
cool.
So for, let's say, a virtual event, we have about 17 different calls that we do with our clients for a
Whoa.
virtual event. Okay.
For a virtual.
Yes. Right.
Oh,
Okay. So everybody, deep breath. This is just going to be high level. Okay. Remember, you don't have to do all of this. There's people like me out there that can help and support you. But the first call is essentially our kickoff call. It's the vision, right? What is the why? What are you wanting to do? Is this a revenue generating event? Is it a lead magnet event? Is it, what are we doing? We're going to then start taking a look at what I call a ticket map, is all the ways that we plan on filling the room. Okay. We're going to take a look at your organization. Who's on your team? Who's going to be supporting during the event? Do we need to bring in extra people? Do we need to find AV teams? Do we need to find sponsorship support? Like who are the players in the game? And then, you want to take a look at, once they join, do you have a funnel system, an email system that's going to be staying in touch with them on the back end? Right? So it's just general overview, vision. What are we working with here? Then we move into your marketing strategy and swag for call number 2. We're going to move into 3 is your enrollment strategy, because every single event should have a CTA. Whether your CTA is going to be, get my lead magnet, buy my ticket to an event, buy my program, put something in chat, how much you love this, whatever, it has some type of CTA. Okay. The 4th one is your budget, because that's important to look at. Even though you may not want to look at the numbers, I want to look at the numbers to make sure we're all on the same page and we just don't believe it's going to be like, oh, it's just going to happen. Everything will work out. It's like, no, like, let's look at the numbers. Then we're going to do our AV and our tech requirement call, what's entailed with it. Then we're going to do our simple run a show. And your run a show is your agenda. What is happening in the event? And how are we setting it up for success? In your run a show, there's an arc. It's kind of like a movie, right? There's this flow that you end up taking the audience on, and it's very experiential. Like, I don't want to do an event where it's just you talking at the camera. That's not fun, and people will leave. Especially after the past few years, we've experienced people that, are yearning for the thing that it is that you are offering. But if you're boring and not engaging and keeping them with you, they're going to peace out, right? So then we're going to take a look at your print and product design. If it's in person or if it's virtual, are they getting virtual backgrounds? Like, what do we have to design? Then we're going to look at your detailed run a show. So this is where we get nitty gritty, to the point where I have it in my spreadsheets and I do this part. You tell me what it looks like and I do it. But it's minute by minute. We open up the doors, we're playing this slideshow, we're playing this video, you come on stage, this is your walk-up song, like nitty gritty. Okay. Yeah. So then we move into AV run a show. So they have all of the assets in order to play it for you. Okay. Dream team is volunteers or team members, who's doing what, so they're on the same page and can support you and the event itself. Then we do our dry run. We actually push all the buttons and play all the things and do it as a rehearsal. Then we do the actual event, and then we do recap, right? So we're looking at what worked, what didn't, how do we make it better? We go back and do another call, wrapping up the budget, wrapping up the sales, and just kind of putting a bow on it. So then when we look at the next event, we're already prepped and ready. So that's high level.
high level.
Wow. So
Do you
what's like
hear
the
that?
time frame here? Like how long does it take you to get through that?
Yeah. I like to have 3 months if I'm doing like
Yeah.
a 3-day sales and enrollment event. That just gives you time to fill the room. It also gives you time to get the swag, because swag, if you're mailing it or you're having it come to your location, it just gives you time to do that and source it and print it and all that fun stuff. I have done virtual events in a month, but it's that condensed, right? So it's
Wow.
like we're moving and shaking. I tend to do that more with my repeat clients because, we already have a lot of these things in place and their team's already been working and prepping on it. But yeah, I like to have a little bit of space.
Gosh.
Oh my
Man.
goodness.
I'm so not jealous of your job.
Yeah, for real. That's the thing I'm realizing. I'm like, thank God there are people like you. And now I know who to call.
Seriously.
Like, geez.
Yes,
Yeah.
let me take that off of your plate. So
Yeah.
you just fill the room and show up in your genius and give us the vision, and then we can run with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So valuable. Holy crap. It's so funny because like I'm sure you can get on these shows and just give away your process, because it's not like anybody that's listening to this is excited about or trying to replicate that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're amazing. So do you do this solo, or do you have a team that of consultants? Like how does your business work? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I started out solo for sure, and completely referral based, right? So
Yeah.
I went from that Dr. Oz show, did a couple of events with them, and was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. I should probably formalize it a little bit and figure out what my niche is and who I can support. Found an event, found a sales and enrollment event that I went to, and I was like, oh, okay, yep, they can help me figure out my niche, figure out how to use speaking, all of these things. And then they turned around and said, so can you help us run our event?
That's when you know you're onto something.
Yeah. Right? I was like, yes, I can. And, completely referral based. Like they sent me to all of their friends. And from there, I was like, fudge, I need more of me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I started a certification program to become a certified event producer. Literally took everything in my brain, my entire business in a box, and like brain dumped it into a program. And since then, had people go through my program and then actually stay with me because they don't want to do the sales and the marketing and finding the
Yeah,
clients.
of course.
They just want to run the events. And so I'm like, well, that's fine. You've been through my process. You know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So just last weekend, I had 2 events happening, one on each coast of the United States.
Wow.
Really cool. One in Tahoe and one was in North Carolina, of my team running it. And I was
Wow.
just, on my phone watching behind the scenes, making sure everything was happening the way it was supposed to. And if they needed me, but they didn't. It was really, really fun.
Wow, that's
Wow.
amazing. Congratulations.
Delegate and elevate.
Yep. Delegate and elevate for sure.
So I can I ask like maybe an ignorant question? I am not very familiar with events, language, and so on. I mean, I feel familiar with events in the sense of speakers and stuff, but sales and enrollment. My understanding of that language is that like it's an event geared to make more sales and enroll more people into your program. Am I like gathering that right? Is that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
definition? Okay.
absolutely. So
Okay. Sweet.
it's a way to scale your business. So when you get to the phase where it's like, okay, I'm getting to a point where I really can't keep doing one-on-one sales calls, discovery sessions, whatever you want to call it, right? Then you're looking to scale it. So we're going to do an event, which is a one-to-many. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is where my clients are filling their year-long program in 3 days. So that's
Solid.
exactly what it is that we're doing.
Well, that's a hard value proposition to argue with. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to tie back to like the 5 phases now, because we talked about phase 1, I think, earlier in the show. Kind of like you're not really ready to start running events until you don't really like have a proof of concept. You got to validate the thing first. Was that the first phase? Is validate? Was that the right word for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. Okay, awesome. So phase 2 then, and then through 5 basically. Could you help us understand those and the varying degrees of like events within each phase?
Absolutely. So phase 2 is the visibility phase, right? So now we have proof of concept. We want to make sure that we start getting visible. So you're starting to do a little bit of leveraging where your primary goal is to get visible. So you're going to use the free platforms because you're still trying to make money, right? So your Facebook Lives, your Clubhouse rooms, your Instagrams, you're going to want to start looking at being a guest on other people's stages, right? So you're going to do your webinars, your podcasts, other people's summits. And then you're also going to want to start taking a look at being a sponsor for events. So this can be somebody else's sales and enrollment event or something along those lines where they're gathering the people and you're essentially paying to play. So you want to look for the platforms where maybe you are right before their audience needs the person that's putting on the event, or right after the audience needs what's happening, they need you. And that way you're not competing with the person putting on the event, but you're supporting the audience all the same. So for instance, if I was putting on an event, I would look for sponsors like AV companies because they don't do what I do, but they support my audience where they're at, right? So you want to look for that kind of joint venture type of partnership. And so you do these kinds of things in phase 2 in order to then move to phase 3, which is the grow phase. In order to move to the grow phase, you need to be making a consistent income of about $5,000 a month. Okay. So in grow, we're going to do essentially the same thing, but just bigger. Bigger speaking opportunities, bigger sponsorships. This is also where you're going to start creating your own stages, creating your own master classes, your own webinars, your own summits. And you want to do that in order to move into phase 4, which is scale, and then phase 5, which is leverage. So you want to, start reaching that $10,000 a month consistently in order to move into the next 2 phases.
Interesting. So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's the whole point of a podcast, Taylor. So moving on. Okay. So you say you give us these like income thresholds, and I'm going to put this in the context of maybe where a lot of our listeners at. So they're individual speakers. And I think like a lot of folks, they have kind of 2 maybe markets that they might be serving. They'll sell their keynotes or their talks to like B2B. And then they kind of have this B2C segment as well, right? Like where they might be selling. So courses, books, maybe their own coaching program, for example. Are we talking about income from that component of their B2C portion of their business? And that's the thing? Because it can be pretty easy for somebody to say, oh, I'm making $10,000 a month. So am I automatically at phase 4? Like where's that?
Yes, and.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a yes and.
Nice.
So if you have your programs, you have your books, you have your courses or what have you, and that's what you're looking to grow, you still need to make sure you have proof of concept. You still need to make sure that people are actually going to want to show up. You still need to get the visibility from that versus just the keynote.
Right.
Keynote money will help you. Because what you do need, as well as you're moving through the phases, you need to start bringing on team, right? Because you can't be a solopreneur growing and scaling this side of the business without team. You need somebody that's going to be like maybe a program manager or a customer service or helping you with your CRM or, behind the scenes stuff, things that are not the best use of your time. Right? So that way you can talk to more people and have more sales conversations and book more speaking gigs, taking those things off your plate. So that money will help support bringing the team in faster. So you can progress through the phases faster.
Okay. I'm with you there. So is there ever a world where like the event that you're putting on is serving B2B ventures? Like, do you ever see that happen where it's not necessarily trying to sell books or courses, but they are trying to sell keynotes to other associations, for example? Like I'm just trying to like paint the picture for both sides of the spectrum.
I guess if your business was like a speaker agency, you could showcase all of your speakers. And those people would come in going, oh, yeah, I like that one. I want that one to come and speak. And I want that one to come and speak. And this one later on in the year. I could see that happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then a
Feel
follow-on
free to take
question to
that
what
one,
you're
guys.
saying.
Yeah, sure. Great.
Thanks. um, you mentioned that like it's really important to have team behind you, which makes complete and total sense. Have you
Yes.
ever seen anybody do it without a team?
Yes.
Oh, that was a sigh. Did you hear
Yeah,
that? Like I felt some
I know.
some emotion
Yes.
behind that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
It's a little more straining.
Hmm.
But like it can happen. It depends on the size of event and how many people we're looking to serve, and if it's something that I can bring in with my team to handle things. Like what I don't handle is your emails behind the scenes, but I can take over your slides. I can take over creating dashboards. I can take over sponsorship packets, right? Like I can take those things on as an add-on, that if you don't have it, we can make it happen. I can help, bring in volunteers or help you set up volunteers within your own community. So a lot of my clients, especially if they're doing speakers or they're supporting business owners, they want to see the behind the scenes of how events are run because they want to do it themselves down the road. They're all for going, yeah, I'll volunteer for your event because I want to see how you do it.
Mm.
Right. And so they'll be on the team, they'll support, they'll get to be a part of it and go, oh, okay, I get it. It's worth trading my time in order to gain that knowledge. Right.
Yeah.
So that's another way that we can bring in support that you might not have to necessarily pay for, or if you don't have a large enough team.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there's like a certain scale of event that you would recommend. Like, so let's say Austin and I, we have these conversations with our clients, listeners all the time. We're like, I don't even want to worry about a team. I don't want a team. I want to be a solopreneur, but they still have this desire to like put on events. So like at what scale of event would you recommend for a solopreneur? And what scale of event would you not recommend for a solopreneur?
Well, is the solopreneur having any 1099s? Like they might not have employees, but are they having 1099 people?
Maybe. Let's say
Maybe.
no. Let's say
Let's
for the
say no,
sake of this
though,
thought
for the sake of the
experiment, no.
example. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So they are somebody that, what do they sell? Like a 6-month
Probably
program or a
primarily.
year?
Yeah, they
Maybe they
probably
do
have like
coaching.
keynotes. They do
Yeah.
coaching, let's say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, keynotes, absolutely you can do without team. You have to do all the research, right? And find the keynotes and do the legwork for it, but you could do that without team. If you were selling a program, you can do that with no team I mean, you could still be making 6 figures and not have team. Um, you would
So
just need
probably
to
like masterminds and retreats and things, like those
exactly.
smaller scale events probably,
Yep.
rather than like finding a place and trying to fill a giant. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be those smaller ones. It would be like war room kind of things where you're just around a table, and you've got maybe 10 people and you're kind of like doing hot seats with everybody around the table. I still would suggest you have at least one person there that can like check people in and make sure that there's water and help make sure that food's showing up, but you just have to hire them for a
Mm.
day,
Yeah, see,
right?
those are the things I don't think a lot of people think of when they're thinking, "I'm gonna fill a room with 10 people." It's like, well, then they have all these, like, other logistics that have to be accounted for aside from the actual delivery, so just that alone was really helpful. Man, Austin, I've got an education today. What about you?
Yeah, I mean that's great. I for sure. I don't even think I had a box for this before this
Yeah.
episode. So thank you.
You're
Yeah, I
welcome.
feel way more clear about this. I
Yeah,
also
for
know
sure.
our people are also very excited to hear this. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with them. You made a lot of people happy today, Shay.
Good, and
Yeah.
hopefully not too overwhelmed.
Oh,
No.
no, definitely. I think they're just
Yeah.
happy that somebody else is willing to help them sort the stuff out, because it can be for just like us, kind of a black box.
Mhm, mhm.
So, as you know, we're all about providing value for our listeners. So, what are you working on right now that everyone can benefit from?
Yeah, so I mean, really, the phases of event leverage and scaling your business is kind of my jam.
Sweet.
After talking to so many people and them coming to me, and I'm like, "Ooh, you should not do an event right now," like, and turning business away because they're not set up for success. So I ended up putting together a gift for your audience. and they can actually get the 5 phases where it's laid out, where they can actually go through a flow chart and figure out where they're at, as well as take a look at what are their next steps for success and how to move through the phases. So the best way for them to get that would actually be to go to fivephases.info, and that's spelling out the word 5 /SpeakerFlow.
Sweet.
Boom.
Love it. The link will be in the show notes, folks. Go click it, download it. It's going to be awesome. Austin and I got a chance to go through it. We were okay, great. Phase 5. Check. So we'll see what phase you're in. I can't. Okay. So go download the thing. Guys, if you like this episode, don't forget to rate it, like it, subscribe to it. And if you want more awesome resources like this, go to speakerflow.com/resources.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in today. Check the show notes for more info and see you next time. Later.